I have the keys to a 2007 Porsche 911 GT3. I have a mile to drive it and give you my impressions. Before I take the car out for a drive, let me tell you a little bit about it. This is the first generation of the 997 GT3, which means that it has the first iteration of the front fascia, rear taillights, and rear spoiler, and all the things that make a GT3 a GT3. This one you won't see very much of on the road because it is black with yellow wheels and yellow mirrors, and a previous owner put on the GT3 RS style side decals from the later 997.2 GT3 RS. But you could not get a GT3 in black with yellow accents unless you ordered it that way from the factory and checked those exclusive option boxes. One of the things that makes the 997 GT3 such a sought after car is because it has a Mezger naturally aspirated flat six, which is the engine that started out in the air-cooled 911s, the very first air-cooleds, and was used in its basic form with water cooling added in the later GT3s, such as this car. In this car, it makes 415 horsepower, it revs to 8,400 RPM, and it only came with a 6-speed manual. You could not get PDK for this car back in the day, nor an automatic transmission. So it's a true purist driver's car that I know this owner uses on the back roads around San Diego, as well as taking it to the track in autocross. So it's a well-used car by an enthusiast, and that's what I like to see. The interior has the normal non-bucket seats with Alcantara seat centers. There's yellow stitching you'll see there, and the wheel also has a yellow center marker to make sure that if you're crossed up or taking a hard turn, you always know where the center part of the steering wheel is. You'll also notice that the rear spoiler is larger than on the regular 997.1 GT3. This spoiler came off of a 997.1 GT3 RS. It's a little bit larger and it looks a little bit better to the owner of this car's eyes. You'll notice there as well, he added the yellow end plates so it kept in theme with the rest of the car. You'll also notice in the front that the turn signal, driving light assembly is aftermarket LED, so it shines a bit better, looks a bit better, but otherwise this car is completely stock. I guess the last thing that isn't stock is a touchscreen infotainment system that improves upon the one that came in the car. With that, it's time to drive the car for a mile and give you my impressions.
Be sure to log into your YouTube account, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a video. Best of all, it's free to do so.
Very easy clutch pedal to modulate, even though it's a very heavy clutch. With the GT3 like this, you have to be mindful of the spoiler lip, the front spoiler, because it's very low. It scrapes very easily and you'll want to take driveways and things like this at an angle to prevent that. Very easy clutch to modulate and shift into second gear, although I do have to say the clutch pedal is a little heavy for my tastes. Oh yeah, as soon as you pull out in a car like this, you can tell it likes being in the turns, and heel toe super easy. First time I tried it, there it was. Because you have 8,400 RPM, you can stay in it for a long time. And that was not redline, but it was close to 8,000 RPM. And it's one of those things where it feels like stakes are involved. You have to keep your foot in it all the way to 8,400 RPM to get the most out of the car. And every time you look at the tachometer, you're thinking, I still have more rev. It's crazy. It's a crazy feeling. And because of the heavier clutch pedal, and the very notchy mechanical shifter, it's a very momentous occasion to shift your own gears in this car. It feels basically like 415 horsepower as you'd expect. Yeah, very easy to heel toe in this because of the pedal placement and the very lightweight flywheel. So I'm driving this car at far below its limits, but I do not want to be the person to find out where the limits are in this car on a road like this, which is extremely twisty. But this is where a car like this lives. A little bit off the gas to turn in, back on, set the rear end. Yeah, this is a car that works with you. And unlike the newer Porsche GT3s, you can really feel the rear of the car moving around like a traditional rear engine air-cooled or early water-cooled 911. A 997 GT3 responds to throttle input with more eagerness than does some of the newer 911s and GT3s. You know, which have longer extended wheelbases and wider tracks up front. So it's a very different car to drive compared to the later cars that Porsche is now building. Very, very easy clutch pedal. It's a little bit stiff, heavy, but very easy to modulate. Oh yeah, man, what an engine. You get a very similar feeling with the new naturally aspirated flat sixes, the 981 or 982 Evo, I believe, the new GT3s. But there's an edge, a rough edge to these older Mezger motors that you really don't get. What a car. Steering, just the right weight. Gets a little bit heavier as you turn in, but just the right amount of weight. Very tight corner where steering with the throttle is rewarded in this car. A little bit off the gas gets the nose to tuck in really well. And actually, compared to newer GT3s, this one seems to have a slightly softer ride. Or maybe this is just a very smooth road compared to where I've driven other GT3s lately. This car gives you every excuse to heel toe, to get into the upper reaches of the rev range. You've got to remember, it has 415 horsepower, which is a good amount, but it only has 300 pound-feet of torque. So you really have to rev this engine out to get the most out of it. Unlike a lot of the turbocharged cars of today's era, including the 3-liter twin-turbo Carreras. Oh man, listen to that engine sing. Compared to the 500 horsepower GT3s of today, 415 horsepower still feels like a lot. However, again, you feel like you can get into more trouble in the new GT3s because they're so quick, so capable. Whereas this car feels quick, but 415 horsepower is not a ton for today's standards. A GT3 like this just uses it extremely, extremely well. Still a quick car, but manageable even for somebody driving it for the first time like me. It's time to give ratings for this car, and man, do I love it. This is one of those cars that I aspire to own. Not sure if I ever will, but I'm really happy the owner of this car let me drive it. It's been a long time since I've been in a 997 GT3. So let's start with car show. It's black, it has yellow accents. You'll probably not see another car just like it. And it's a 997 GT3. So this car is a car show car. I'm gonna give it a 9. It's perhaps the most desirable out of all the GT3s for people who appreciate a manual transmission and that old school 911 rear engine feeling, along with the old school Mezger flat 6. Daily driving, this car is not great on gas mileage. I don't know exactly what we've had here, but I do know that the owner filled it up before we went on this drive, and there's only 209 miles left. He drove it a bit hard to get here, so maybe that would raise up a little bit if we were cruising on the highway. But gas mileage not great. The ride's a little bit stiff, but not as stiff as I remembered. The seats are really, really comfortable. Might not be the most comfortable seats for people who are a bit larger than myself. I happen to be 5'10", and these bolsters might be a little bit pinchy. They're perfect for me, but I can tell that right around here they might dig in for larger people. It has storage in the frunk, so just like any other 911, you got plenty of storage there. There's no back seats in a GT3, so you can store things there. Suitcase, backpack, whatever. Wouldn't be a horrible daily driver, but this just isn't the sort of car that you'd want to daily drive. And I'd actually say that the clutch pedal is heavy enough on this car where your foot might get a little bit sore if you were to take it into the daily grind, especially in stop and go traffic. So I'm gonna give this a 5.5 for daily driving. It can do it. It's perfectly mild-mannered when you want it to be, but would much rather be in a Carrera for that sort of thing, especially considering how nice these things and rare they are. For road trip, this is definitely a car you'd want to take to an event like Porsche Parade, and you have enough room to store plenty of backpacks, suitcases, equipment in the back seat and the front, and it's a reasonably comfortable ride, and you have all the amenities you might need for a road trip. So I'm going to give this a 7 for road trip, and it's something that you really would want to take on the road. You wouldn't want to store this in the garage. You want to drive it. And a road trip to an event like Parade or Works Reunion is exactly what this kind of car is for. Fun factor, as it is with GT3s, there are a lot of layers to peel back when you're driving a car like this. The throttle is so sharp that takes getting used to. If you're not used to the clutch pedal and shifting, the 6-speed manual, especially with the lighter flywheel, that could take some getting used to. But what this car always does is eggs you to go faster, and before you know it, you are blowing right through the speed limits and on any given road that you're on. Turn-in is super sharp, very positive. The rear end is very stable and really responds well to a lift of the throttle to turn in on those tighter corners, and will set the rear end down on the throttle to grip on your way out. But yeah, there's a lot of speed here, and it would take a little bit of time to really approach the limits of this car. Keep your foot in it all the way to redline before you shift and dive into corners. Really, this is a car you'd want to take to the track and autocross. And in that sense, there's not a lot of cars that are more fun than this. I'm going to give it a 9.25 for fun factor. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. Let me know what you think of this review in comment section. If you like this video, please smash the like button. Please subscribe to our channels if you like these 1 mile reviews or the other videos that we release weekly, including our podcast and the bi-weekly Tech Tactics Live. Until next time, thanks again.